Hello there. Welcome to the Manifestation Kitchen podcast, where I open our cooking pots so inspirational geniuses who heal the world through food, words, touch, movement, and so much more can add their ingredients for our culinary pleasure of the soul. I am your host, Victoria Dioh, and today we have my friend Shane Moore. Now, Shane is passionate about helping others to learn how to heal themselves, and her body knowledge, it literally goes beyond the whole authentic, holistic, and spiritual approach. She literally gets right in there, and she helps to reduce, so many diseases, which can include tumors, reversing illness, and so much more. And I can't wait for you to listen to what she's got to talk about and shed some of her wisdom on us. So join me on the other side, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye. Hey guys, here she is, the amazing Shane Moore. Hello, my love.
Hello.
Hello. It's been almost a year since I saw you.
No.
It
Has
has.
it?
Yeah, almost
I
a
guess
year.
yeah. Well, what? June?
No, no, April. So for
April.
those of
That's
you who
right. April. Yes.
April, right? So
Wow.
April,
Holy
I know,
cow.
right? I know.
That's
So
crazy.
when I tell people about my story, I can imagine that people think, nah, that's not possible. How can that be? And Shane was one of the people in the middle of lockdown when I literally was in a home that just was not resonating with me. And Shane was like, "What are you doing there? Move." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't have any money. And I don't know I don't know what's going to happen. And there's lockdown." And Shane just reminded me, and this is the thing, is that you reminded me, and it's something that everybody has in their life that we don't normally pay attention, is there's always that voice or there's that person that just reminds you that just go with the flow. Just go with the flow. And as a result, I don't know how it happened, but I moved in with Shane for like 2 weeks. And yeah, if you want to hear the rest of the story, you're going to have to come on to another thing, because today we're talking about Shane, but it's been a year. It's been a
Yeah, it
year.
really has. That's crazy.
It's been a year. Anyway, enough about me. Welcome. So
Thank you.
Shane, I know you've healed me. You've done work on me. You've seen
I
me
have.
where my body has just gone, can't take anymore. We're giving up. And I know that you are very strong on people healing themselves. So I would like to ask you, where does that come from?
Where does it come from in me? Or
Yes,
where
in
does
you.
the fact that
No,
people
in
healing
you.
themselves come from?
No, in you. I want to know
Wow.
about you.
Interesting. Where does that come from? Good question.
Mm,
Um, I don't really know where it comes from actually. Like it's because it showed up in my mid 30s, mid to late 30s, I guess. And
mm,
but prior to that, I was always in jobs that were helping people, right? I was a lifeguard as a teenager. I became a correctional officer after that, which maybe isn't really helping people so much as watching them sit behind bars. But then I was a probation officer, so that might be helping a little bit more. Um, but no, I knew get coming out of there, like I knew that I would not retire from corrections for sure. Um, and I just was looking for a career that, that I really enjoyed doing because I was really kind of getting jaded and bitter with society in general, just working with the clientele I was working with and even the staff, who had been around
mm,
for years and years were just had this negative outlook on life. And I just was, I wasn't feeling good anymore. Like I'd learned everything I could on that job and it was time to move on. And so I went back to school for massage therapy. And then within the first year of my practice, I found myofascial release as taught by John Barnes. And really, literally, in the first hour of the first seminar was a light bulb moment for me. Like it just was it's like, this is what I need to be doing. This, I'm done
Mm.
with massage even, and this kind of healing work is where it's at for me. So that's where it came from. Now, I mean, I've been told in a past life that I have been a witch. I fully embrace that. Whether people believe in that or not, I know you do, but it's we're energy and we come around and we like we never go away really. And so
Mm.
it's always been there for me. It just this time around took me a little bit longer to figure it out. And yeah, and now here I am and embracing it as much as possible, really.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You said a number of things there about you discovering it in your 30s. And I know a lot of people now who, in their early 30s or late 20s, are going, oh my God, I haven't found my purpose. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Everything you're doing
Wait
is
for it.
preparing you. Yeah. It's like everything you're doing, wait for it. It's coming. It's coming. And,
Yeah.
and it comes when you least expect it, right? It comes when you least
Yeah.
expect it. So, I love that bit. And then you said something else about us within the first hour, you just knew. There is that knowing, and I take it to a different level of belief. When you hear it, when it strikes you, you know
Yeah.
it's yours. You
Yes.
know it's yours
Yes.
to give, yours to serve. And
Yeah.
were you scared when that came through, or were you excited? What were the
No, I was
emotions that you
excited.
experienced?
I was
Yeah,
I was super excited about it. Super.
yeah.
I mean, even when I started massage school in Ontario in Canada, um, like I read the whole anatomy textbook before school started. Like we did a pre-science course just to
Oh
because it's
wow.
pretty intensive. Like we do a
Mm,
lot of anatomy, physiology, pathology in like it's a 2-year program for massage in
mm,
Ontario, which is unusual worldwide. Usually it's like a 500-hour program for most people,
mm.
but in Ontario it's 2,200 hours. So,
Yeah.
I was just so into it. Like I really wanted to know as much as possible going in, and it was easy. Like school just was easy for me at that point. And I was an arts student before. Like I was a humanities English major, when I was in university. So not science at all. I didn't resonate with science at all in high school,
Hmm.
but anatomy just I was so interested in learning about the body and all that sort of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Interesting.
easy. It was easy to step into.
It was easy. Not like your friend here who she gets told she's
Yeah.
normal and she goes, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's cool. It's okay. No, 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 no,
No,
not
no.
now.
Yeah.
I like asking that question though, because I believe that when people think they're going to find their purpose, I think they automatically believe that it's a form of excitement. And I am testimony that no, it isn't. Not always, because
Not always. Yeah.
not always, because I just ran the opposite way. I went, it's okay. It's cool. No, no, no. I'm happy. I'm happy earning the six figures in the office, going into the office every single day, Monday to Friday. It's cool. I got this. Yeah. So I always ask that question because I think everybody experiences different emotions when you tap into your purpose. For me, especially, I find that every time I take on something new within my purpose. I think today I went for a work. Something really major is happening in my life at the moment. Um, that I won't speak about on air, but when I remember going for a walk today just because I felt as if I needed to cry. I was like, I just need to shed some tears. And it's not tears of sadness, it's just
I know, it's just emotion.
release. Yeah,
Yes.
I need to release it and stuff. And then you realize how much your body has been holding on to stuff and what have you. You're like, the tears didn't come, but it will come. And I was saying to a friend today that I'm sure a puppy's just going to walk past me and I'm just going to burst into tears. Like it's going to be one of those moments where people are going to be like, seriously, it's a dog.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever
Yeah.
it takes. Whatever it takes. So we last saw each other um, in lockdown, very severe
Yeah.
lockdown. And with the work that you're doing, how has that how has that how has that manifested in your clients? So the lockdown and the bodies that you have been coming to your table, what has that looked like?
Well, I haven't really had many bodies coming to my table in lockdown because nobody wants to come for hands-on work, right? A lot of people are
Yeah.
really afraid of, of what's going on. And I mean, I'm not, right? Like I'm not like that's not how I understand the illness
Mm,
model, the disease model, the health model. That's I don't resonate
mm,
with the approach that's being taken. Um, but I know that that's not the case for everybody, and I respect anybody else's positions where they're at and what they believe. So, you
mm.
can't force work on people. It doesn't work that way. They have to want it.
No. Yeah.
And so that's why I focused more on the self-healing work, treating myself,
Yes.
making sure I'm clear, and it just was a
Yes.
time for me to focus on me. Um, and to create, to not create because I created the program prior to the lockdown, but to really focus on getting the self-healing program out there, and up
Yeah.
on a platform and all that sort of stuff. So it's up, it's running, there's people in it. So it's going
It's good.
and yeah, it's
Yeah.
ready for people that want to start healing themselves, right? And taking back that power because we absolutely have the ability to heal ourselves. We just need to get out of the way and do
Yeah, completely.
what helps ourselves instead of getting in the way of our healing, really. So
Yeah. So, and I hear what you're saying that nobody's necessarily been on your table, but you've had clients, right? So the clients that are coming in, even for
yeah.
the self healing, you're aware of what they're going through. So, what are they creating? What has been created within their bodies? What's different between what's been created now? I know you've alluded to fear, and I believe that fear is really rife at the moment. Maybe it's dying down a bit because people are realizing that the world is gradually opening up again. But I know a year ago people were scared, people were terrified, people didn't feel as if they could go anywhere, could do anything. So even with the people that you may not have come to your table but are in your space, what does that look like?
Well, there's not a lot of people in my space right now, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like my
Oh.
partner and two kids, right? And I mean, that little core has been the case, since I saw you last, really, like for the past
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
I've been able to travel in that year, and
You have.
that's unusual. I have, well, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
was in London when I was with you
Yeah.
last, and then from Covent Garden went to Warsaw, and then we were in Greece for 6 months. So,
Yeah.
and now we're back in Poland. So I mean, travel was possible. We traveled when it was possible, but yeah, I mean, we're in remote areas, so people. I mean, yes, some are afraid. I know some are really, that fears is still, it's been really instilled in people, unfortunately, and so they've given up a lot of their power to what's being
Mm,
put out about how this
mm,
all is, manifesting
mm,
people, and I I really have a hard time with it, and I really try not to pay attention too much to it as much as I can. I mean, it's everywhere, so it's hard to shut it out sometimes, but
mm.
without disconnecting completely from internet. But which is hard to do when you are running a business online now.
Business.
But
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
but yeah, I don't really pay attention to it, but I mean it's
Mhm.
just another stressor for people that that we will have to address when people are ready to start coming back again to have the
Yeah.
one-on-one work.
Yeah. And
It's
how do you, so
it's going to be necessary.
exactly, exactly. And I think where I'm going with the question is, and how do you think that's going to manifest? Because you've seen people deal with stress. And also, you know, for example, I know that, and I call it COVID bodies. And I say that because I know that I developed it as well. I developed that sort of like the weight gain, the
Mm,
lower backache that I've never experienced and stuff. It's like, and I know what it is. I know it's like a
yeah,
whole amount of suppression of space
yeah.
and freedom, but it's also very much mental and everything else and
Yeah.
what have you. So I get that. And, and I can just imagine that I'm coming from a place of experience, and also with my work of being intuitive and having people coming in. I'm just wondering, what sort of people are you expecting to come in, or what can people experience? And then they go, you know what, I need to call Shane.
Well, I mean, that's a great question because, I mean, obviously, I believe everybody could benefit from what I do. Now, having
Mm,
said that, not everybody's going to access it, and for various
mm,
reasons, and that's fine.
mm,
Um,
mm.
but yes, people like we've had over a year, really, of basically house arrest. I was talking with Anna about this the other day. I'm like, we've been, and I used to supervise people who would be on house arrest as a probation officer, and
Mm,
you literally are not allowed to leave your house for anything,
mm, mm.
with only written exceptions from probation officers. So yeah, that's essentially, we've been treated like we're prisoners, right? And
Mm, mm.
so you have all the trauma that goes along with that in everybody, myself included, like you say. I mean,
Mm.
I understand how this works. It doesn't mean I'm immune to it by any
Yeah,
stretch, right? Like
yeah,
I
of
go
course.
just as nuts having to be stuck in the house all the time as the next person. So,
Mm,
I mean, it's one thing to choose to stay inside. It's totally another to be told you can't leave, right? And that mindset
yeah.
is really, that is what starts to settle into your head. And I mean, even just the normalization of wearing masks and that sort of thing is just, like,
Mm,
and how do you explain to kids that, oh, it wasn't okay before to wear, like, to take it off, but now you can, and they're going to be, they're not going to know what to think, right? Like, and
yeah.
they're going to grow up thinking that, oh, I might get sick if I don't have this mask on. Well, that's not really true. So, yeah, like
Mm,
I expect to find, all manner of stuff going on in people, but I mean, it's just adding to the trauma that's already there, right? Like we've all got trauma in our
mm,
bodies,
mm.
it doesn't matter. I've had so many different people on my table, but we all hold trauma in our bodies in different ways, and this is
Yeah.
just another aspect of it that will need to be treated and released. So I'm
And
ready for it.
you're ready for it. So,
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't know they're experiencing trauma, what does trauma look like?
Well, I mean, it can look just like fear. It can look like anxiety and worry and stress. Like these are forms of trauma. Like people think, when you think trauma, people think major catastrophes and,
Yeah.
PTSD from wartime and,
Mm-hmm.
horrific physical abuse and that sort of thing. And of course, that is all trauma, but so is
Yes.
what we're going through now, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
is a form of trauma, whether or not people really understand that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of different things that have happened to us over our lives have been, in our minds at whatever age we were at, a traumatic incident. So,
Mm,
it looks very different for different people, and it shouldn't be discounted because a lot of people tend to minimize their trauma, and that doesn't help, right? You have to
mm,
acknowledge those emotions. You have to acknowledge what it's done in your life, mentally,
mm,
physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that, and
mm.
and address it in those ways, and just, be aware of it. You don't have to get immersed.
Oh dear. I think we have lost her. Let's hope that she comes back. How's that? Because we were having a really good conversation there around sort of like trauma and what
Sorry,
trauma looks
they got
like.
kicked out.
It's okay. You're back. You're back. It's that's what I love about the whole live recording. We don't edit any of it. We just
Nice.
carry on. Yeah. So what were you saying? You're talking
So
about
yeah,
trauma and
it just looks very different, and people really discount their trauma and say, oh, it's not as serious as this person who's been through this and that and the other thing. I mean, don't it's not a good thing to do. It minimize your own trauma. Like respect it, and pay attention to the lessons that it has for you, because I mean, all of these events that happen in our lives are meant to teach us something. We're meant to learn something from it. So, these are opportunities to heal our physical, mental, spiritual, emotional bodies, but
Yeah,
really shift that epigenetic energy, that ancestral pattern, because a lot of it is, handed down generations and
mm,
generations, right? So, I mean, we have the ability to shift that and change it for past and future generations, really.
yeah. And I like the advice you've just given there, because I think before I became awake to my intuition, I just existed. So even though I didn't experience a lot of physical pain, I know there was trauma that I just ignored. I know that there were elements that I just ignored, whether it was fear, doubt, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily always serious, but I believe that it's always useful to have it analyzed by someone to see whether it's something even more deeper than not. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's for something to awaken from your childhood that you've conveniently suppressed over the years, and then boom, here it is. And
Yeah.
what I find as well is that my body is a lot more sensitive than I give it credit for. So if my body doesn't like a situation, or if my spirit isn't aligned, then my body will tell me so. So that I've learned that. I've learned that. I won't say the hard way, because there was no way for me to know, but the more I've got to understand it, it's like, just because my arm hurts, and my arm was the one thing that you helped with. I remember my arm was just like, I literally lost use of my right arm. I couldn't move my arm. It just went. And I got to realize that just because it had gone didn't mean it was the end of the world. It could be resolved, but it took a lot more self connection for it to work again, and for it,
Yeah.
obviously you moved it around, but it was more about me understanding that it was my responsibility to heal my body, and also to be able to visualize your body in a better state, because
Mhm.
that's something that I've been working on with my back, because my lower back, I've never experienced it. It's been crazy, and the more I sort of like work on it, and work on me, and work on what I am meant to be doing on this earth, then the back starts to ease. It's quite an interesting concept and what have you, because
Yeah.
our our body is filled with just cells, and cells are always growing, which means cells can always mend themselves. Same cells, and once we understand that, you realize that no situation is permanent. And I know that
Yeah.
there's people with really, really extreme diseases, or illnesses. For example, my sister is an amputee, and I know that her legs never going to grow back, but there's treatments around that can help, and also that you can do within yourself to actually alleviate a lot of the pain and the trauma around it, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That it takes a lot of surrender. I believe it takes a lot of
Yeah.
surrender. What do you say to that? What do you say to that?
Well, there is so much there that I'm trying to
I
think about where to
know.
jump in. Um,
Just go for it.
yeah, I mean, yes, cells are always regenerating, right? I mean,
Mm,
that is the case, right? Our cells, our blood cells die off and our new ones grow constantly. Skin cells, everything, almost like all of our cells in our body regenerate. So yes, we are a new person every so often. Um,
mm,
and so, but on a even higher level, we are just energy, right? Everything's just moving, and all these particles are just always moving. Energy, and this is scientific. This is based in science, and I don't really need often need the scientific backup to believe stuff, but I know people do, so it's really important to them to know that there's, this is science based, is that it's quantum energy, and that's one of the fields of science that has the most evidence of being true, right? Is
mm,
is that that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It's just changes form, right? So, and we are energy. That's all we're light energy. That's all we are. And so it's, it's just a matter of tapping into that and allowing your energy to vibrate at a higher level so that you can avoid illness and disease and pain and all that sort of thing. So, easier said than done, of course, because we're still having a human experience, right? And
Yes.
so it's a matter of, kind of wrapping your head around the two things, right? And bringing them
Yeah.
together and having that understanding of, that higher connection and that ability to vibrate on a higher level. But we can't always do that, right? We can't always be up in that higher vibratory space because it just takes so much to stay there, right? It's just not. I don't know if I mean we're not meant to be there as humans. I don't believe that we're meant to be in that space as humans. We're meant to be having a human experience here. So,
Mm.
and pain is part of that, right? That doesn't mean you have to live with pain for the rest of your life. There are ways to heal that and to feel better. But yes, people get in their way and and you get disconnected from yourself essentially. And so it is that, it's that, like you said, with your arm, right? And when you lost the use of your arm and you said, well, I mean, yes, and I treated your wrist, your hand, the whole thing. But your arm, like I wasn't moving your arm when I was treating you. Your arm was moving itself. And so, yes,
Mm.
like you said, it's about surrendering and allowing your body to heal itself because it will,
Mm.
right? It will move however it needs to release whatever's going on as long as you're willing to surrender to it, take your brakes
Mm.
off and just let it happen because and that for most people is the most challenging part, which is why
Mm.
this work works really well with kids because they don't have those kind of hangups
Yes.
most of the time, right? Like
Yes,
they
I
are more
know.
open to just crazy cool stuff happening, whereas
Yes,
adults are like, like very skeptical and
I
can
know.
get freaked out pretty easily. So, it's always fun, but to treat kids and just to see the expression on people's face when their body just when they do allow that shift
Mm-hmm.
to happen and they allow their body just to start to let go and it just starts to move and they're just like, what is happening right now? And I'm like, just go with it, right? I'll
Yeah.
talk to you about it later, but just let it happen because that's what needs to happen, right? And we have just been able to, like, we've learned to shut that down, that healing mechanism
Mm.
down a lot and give it away, give that power away to other people. So I mean, I just love to reawaken that in people and show them, remind them what's possible because we know this on some level. I believe we know this, and I think it really depends on the situation that we choose to come back into this life under, the circumstances under which we choose to come back into this life, because I do believe we choose all aspects of our life before we
Mm-hmm.
come into it,
Yeah.
before we're
Yeah.
born, right?
Yeah.
And so we choose the family we're born into and the parents, like the parents we got were the parents we were meant to have. And anytime we are, fighting that, we're in resistance to something that we've chosen, and that's creating stress and disconnection in your
Mm-hmm.
body, right? Like you were talking about. It's anytime you're resisting what's going on presently, you're creating tension in your body, and that's not
Mm.
going to feel good. And so if you want to feel good, stop resisting things.
Easier
Again,
said than
easier
done for a
said
lot
than
of
done.
people. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
easier said than done. And you talked about one thing I'll pick up on, and I'm not sure if you meant it like that about we're meant to be in the human experience. I believe we're meant to be in the human experience of a human being, and what we are being is that we're in the experience of a human doing, where
Mm.
we're always thinking and double checking. I believe you have a choice of where you are, where you are placed as a human. But I believe that when some of us, when we're in our human doings, we don't even realize we're in our human doings. And
Yeah.
we were born as human beings, which is why babies just are.
Yeah.
They just are. They poop, they wee, they vomit, they eat, they just are. And
Yeah.
and then once they start to take on the patterns of their family members, people around them, even kids who are born with into a no non-family space, where they've gone to, like a home or something. Whoever's around them is their family for them, and they develop the fears and the beliefs of that space for the amount of time that they're there. And as a result, it takes us into that place of human doing where we go into human suffering. And whilst I believe that the suffering and the learnings allows us to be the people that we are, I don't believe that we are meant to be in pain for a lengthy period of time.
I agree.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Okay. Just making sure that we're in the same path on that one. So yeah. So you've mentioned that you've been on your own journey of self-healing, and what has that looked like? And where have you seen the transformation?
Yes, I have seen transformation for sure. Uh, it's been, I mean, for me, in the last couple of years, the last few years maybe, I've started to really investigate and explore other modalities other than the one that I've been practicing for the last 10 years, which is myofascial release and the hands-on stuff. Well, you and I first met on a sound healing. Well, no, it wasn't no, it wasn't sound. It wasn't a sound healing weekend. It was, but the event we were at,
you tell us.
we were at an event, a public learn to speak better in public, basically.
That's right.
But the facilitator is a sound healer, and I spent some time with her after that, and I did several of her offerings, retreats and half days and all that. Well, and I know you've worked with her as well, with Judith. So
yes.
Shout out to Jude. And yeah, so I came into contact with energy alignment method. There's voice vibration sound healing.
Yes.
Lots of just different modalities and different practitioners and therapists. And I just, kind of immersed myself and tried to learn everything that I could about each of them and incorporate it into what I'm doing, because there are so many great modalities that work really well. And what I've discovered is that they work even better when you use them together. And so,
exactly,
as a lot of things do, right? Things are great on their own and separately, but when you bring them together and your results are just kind of off the charts. So that's where the self-healing program came from. But yeah, so I've basically been doing myofascial release on myself, and I've had an intensive. I've been to another therapist for an intensive, which was 30 hours of treatment in 11 days, which was amazing. And I didn't really have any major issues going on right there. Like I didn't have pain. I wasn't going in there with any major complaints. I mean, my body's always holding something. Our bodies are always holding something. So this work is a continual process, right? Like exercise or eating or bathing. You need to be doing this on a regular basis to make sure your body's working really well. But yeah, I did a lot of myofascial release, with other therapists on my own, practicing the self-care. Law of attraction has been really big for me, and really kind of diving into that and understanding really how to manifest and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know that's right up your aisle.
Love it.
So that's really what I've been doing since I, had my eyes opened at that seminar, over 10 years ago now. And it's just been, taking in as much as I could. Because when I first, after that first seminar, I was like, in the next 2 years, I took almost every course that John had going. It's probably eight different seminars, and that's a lot of travel. Like it was, he teaches in different cities year round in the States, basically. So I had to travel to wherever he was, and which was not a hardship for me. I like to travel, but yeah, and when it's work related, then even better, right? So yeah, that's I've my spiritual, I've connected more with my spirituality through this for sure, because I was not super connected to it prior to this work. Um, I was raised in the church, but I don't really follow religion. I'm
Mm,
much more connected to the spiritual side and
mm,
belief in a higher power, but just no real name for it, just an acceptance
mm,
that it exists.
mm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of what the journey has looked like for me over the past 12 years, I guess. And I mean, it's interesting to see who kind of gravitates towards me and who gravitates away from me in that space and time, because that was one thing that my teacher did warn us about, is that, once you
Yep.
start doing this work, some people are going to move away from you. You'll lose some friends, maybe some family members, that sort of thing, lose connection. Um, but it's understanding why that's happening, and we're just not all resonating at the same frequency all the time. So it's okay that that you part ways with people on an occasion, and sometimes forever, but sometimes not. So I don't resist
Yeah.
that anymore.
No, no, no. And it's quite clear that you are going through a very human experience where, you know, you're admitting and also surrendering to the possibility of change. Because I think sometimes as human beings, we're so hell bent on maintaining the status quo because we've been told that, or somebody told us that, or our parents did that and everything else. And whilst forever ever after sounds amazing and very romantic, forever ever after may not necessarily be the case in all situations, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that when it's not forever after that there isn't a lot of hurt that goes with it, whether or not you understand or you believe that forever after can be cut short, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's about being in that space, because I mean, I've been really, really fortunate that leaning into my purpose, I I don't think people have walked away because of that. But then again, I can be quite naive in those thoughts and stuff. I just think that everybody's fine, and if they move away, then they've moved away. But I do believe that the people who are in my circle are people who are meant to be in my circle.
Yeah.
And I'm very upfront about talking about my purpose, because it's not something that I want to choose. It's something that I have embodied. I
Mhm.
spent a lot of time fighting it. So for me, now that I am, this is it. So, wherever I go, whether I go into the corporate world and help out, I'm very, very, very honest about, and I say to them, this is what I do. Everything else I do amazingly well as well, but this is me. And it's been so freeing to be able to just, not that I was ever hiding it, but it's really freeing to be upfront about it and say, this is who I am.
Mhm.
Because then I believe it just opens the window for so much more, so many more possibilities and what have you. So
Yeah.
I hear completely what you're saying. So what's next for Shane?
Wow. I wish I knew what was next. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm definitely open to treating clients one on one. I'm set up to travel, and treat
Mm,
people where they're at or meet them somewhere, or,
yeah,
I'd love to have a home base again, because, as you
yeah,
know, a few years ago I sold my house and basically got rid of everything I own. I've been traveling ever since. So I'm ready to have, not necessarily settle in one place, but to have that space to be able to travel to and from, and work from, and spend more of the year in that space. Um,
yeah,
so I'm feeling ready for that. I mean, it's been good that, in the past year, I guess, I've spent longer periods of time in one space, right?
yeah.
We were 6 months in Greece, which was quite probably the longest time I've spent anywhere in the last 3 years in one go,
Mm,
basically. And that was amazing. And I would definitely go back there and have property there and work from there, because Crete was awesome. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I just, but but yeah, I think it's just bringing more people in to expand the business. That's what's next. Continuing to travel. I mean, we're in Poland for the foreseeable, well, for the next 2 months, 2 month and
Okay.
yeah, we're on the fifth now, so till the end of May at least, and then after
Mm.
that, we're gonna try and go somewhere else, possibly to Canada if they'll let us in at that point.
Okay.
Maybe the States, but who knows? I mean, you just never know where I'll end up really, because I'm not one of
Right.
those people that is resistant to change. Sure,
No,
I
no, no.
embrace change as much as possible because you're right. Like we aren't. I don't believe we're meant to be doing the same thing day in and day out. Routine
No.
doesn't. I mean, while it works for me at sometimes a lot of times it doesn't. It's nicer not to have a routine that I'm stuck with, and and that was very much the case, obviously, when I worked for the government. So you have a regular day job and you work at shift work, and your work schedule for the next 5 years of your life. It's just like this does not work for me. you know I
Yeah.
don't want that much of my life regimented. So, or I want to create my own schedule, like I don't want to work on somebody else's schedule, but that's not for everybody. So, and that's okay because somebody has to do those jobs, right? So,
Very true. Very
but
true. Very true.
but yeah, I mean, if we were all living up to our human being status, then maybe nobody would need to do those jobs, and we could all just hang out on the
Exactly.
beach or out in the woods or climbing the mountain, whatever. But yeah, we have not evolved that way for a reason. So it's interesting to see what shows up next in the world and for people, and how they shift and adapt to it and respond to it, really, because that's all we can do is respond to whatever's happening or sit back and observe it.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, I do believe that. See, as someone who spent almost 20 years in the corporate world, somehow I knew that I just made the job my own. So I never got bored because I get bored
Yeah.
very quickly. So I made the job my own. And I also manifested a job where I manifested the fact that I would always be senior in the jobs that I did.
Mhm.
So I was never or hardly ever a subordinate of somebody. I was literally
Right.
always the boss, which meant that I could design my job the way I wanted it to be. So even though I was part of a
Nice.
structure, I had freedom, and I've had that. I've never experienced being a subordinate in an office. Never. I've always
Wow.
had that freedom. Yeah, I've been very lucky, which is why I believe that your purpose, your calling, doesn't start the day you realize you've got a calling. It begins the day you were born. It
Mm.
just You just have to go through that journey to eventually
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah.
And also I also believe that there are people who genuinely like, I don't know, being in an office. Like literally, I've seen
Yeah.
people who haven't been able to go into the office during lockdown, and they are literally going crazy. Like they want to be in an office, and I'm like, I'm sure there's somewhere better you want to be, and they're like, no, I want to be in an office. So you know what? The office for somebody could be somebody else's, walking in the mountain or laying by the beach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
we just need to be able to identify who those people are, so we put the right people in the right places to
Exactly.
get rid of
Exactly.
that stress. I love it.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so much, Shane and stuff. So as we wrap up, if there was one thing that you could tell our listeners, because you talked about putting ideas together, taking different modalities and putting them together. That's why I run this podcast, because I'm always looking for people who heal the world, always, because I believe that it's not just the oracle modality that people may be interested in. They may want to sort of like look at yours or look at Judith's or look at anybody else's that comes on here. And I always ask my guests and say, if there was something that you could give, any wisdom that you could divulge to our listeners, what would it be before we head off?
I would say get treated by as many different people as you can.
Right.
Explore different modalities, and you will find probably several that work really well for you. I mean, if you
Mm.
find one and you just do one for the rest of your life, that might be okay, and you'll get some pretty good results if it's a good modality, and and if you're happy with it, that's fine. But expand a little bit more. Like we're not meant to do one thing or eat one food, or like try
Yeah.
different stuff, because that's what's going to allow you to go deeper, especially with if you're looking to really resolve some of these internal issues, or some of these suppressed emotions, or whether it's a history of illness or something in your family that you really believe that doesn't need to happen for you. Like there are ways to get around that and to avoid it. And you have to heal it. You have to go through that healing process. You can't circumvent it at all. So I would say, you know, with people who resonate for you, connect with different therapists, different healers, different modalities, because everything has something valuable to offer. And just even within the same modality, different therapists have a different energy and a different approach and a different experience. And it's just so helpful to have, a variety of people working on you and working with you, because that will get you the best outcome, really. Your optimum outcome really is to see a lot of different people, for sure.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Shane. Thank you ever
Thank
so much. That was really, really useful.
I hope so.
Well, it was. And guys, at the bottom of the screen, you will see where you can get hold of Shane if you want to speak to her further about what she's working on, or if you need treatment from her. There you go. You can see at the bottom. So until next time, we will speak to you soon, and keep on healing the world. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.